Hi, guys. Good evening, good morning, wherever in the world we are. This is another episode, in fact, the first episode of Geopolitics and Optopolitics, which is moving around the world and how we are looking at it. And in this episode, what we are looking to do is have a discussion with a colleague of mine and trying to decode what really is China up to. And China is up to multiple things, and the post-COVID scenario is really kind of intriguing for the entire world, you, me, and even the world leaders. So, what I would do is that in this episode, invite a good colleague of mine based out of New York, someone whom I call as my mentor, who's very deep into strategic geopolitics, but with whom I also banter. So, for a discussion into what China is really up to, let us try and decode. Let us try and invite a discussion with Ven Parmeswaran. Hi, Ven, welcome.
Hi, Robinda.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's exciting to participate with you. And
Sure, thank you. Thank you. When I will introduce you to our listeners and viewers in a moment, and we are live right now,
yes,
and a discussion about really what China is up to. Because, I mean, the world and people and leaders somehow always seem to interpret or misinterpret China also. By the way, China is seen as the devil, but China may not be so bad because we are looking at prisms at China. So it's a pleasure to have you and our discussion. And for the sake of our friends and colleagues out there who are maybe listening to this discussion, when Parmeswaran is someone who's very deeply knowledgeable about American politics, been there for the last 70 odd years almost, right? Worked on the Wall Street, worked with the Indian diplomatic missions, and many other aspects, and a very keen observer of international politics. So China is a mystery, perhaps, for many of us. So now let's start off with a question. When, given what is happening in the world of today, in the world of COVID and all, and of course, America is one big gorilla in this world. What do you think America thinks about China?
uh, Robinda, that's a very interesting question. And I would like to give a little background about China in the world. At the end of World War II, this, the Soviet Union,
Uh huh.
at the end of World War II, the Soviet Union and the United States started a Cold War, which ended some years ago. Now, talking about America is the lone superpower in the world after the Cold War ended.
America was, may I pardon? America was, that is the question. Please continue.
America is still the sole superpower in the world, and China has become the second superpower. And there is a stiff competition between the United States and China uh, right now. But let me give you some background about this relationship between United States and China. Uh, it's important to understand that relationship. From 1949, when 1949 Mao Zedong established Communist China, People's Republic of China, and from 1949 to 1979, for 30 years, the United States did not recognize China. Only after Nixon visited in 1970s, Carter recognized China in 1979. Not only United States recognized China, United States went right about turn. From enemy, it became a close friend of China, in the sense United States thesis at that time was United States must engage China fully so that the communism will not spread to other countries. With that in mind, United States went and invested heavily in China. Of course, China cooperated, China accepted capitalistic tools, and China opened its economy and liberalized, which enabled the United States to invest heavily. As a result, in the process, China has modernized between 1979 in 30 years, 2009. They became second economic power, outstripping Japan. Now, why we have to understand this. For 30 years, the United States was enemy number one of China. From after that, they became almost friends, outwardly at least. Now the things are changing. Things are changing in a big way, and the United States is very suspicious of China because of coronavirus. Number
No,
one.
but when, 1 minute, forget the coronavirus thing. The United, I mean, corona is just something which is happening now. China has been gaining economic heft for ages and ages. What is the United States perspective with regards to China? I mean, I understand your point, and we are going to play a devil's advocate, or we are into a brainstorming. The theme of this show when is decoding optopolitics, right?
Right.
So if we are decoding optopolitics, which means optics, politics, and economics, is that America was investing, as you said, from the 1980s, big monies, American corporations into China, and they were reaping good profits coming back to America, low cost goods coming to America, and profit and win-win everywhere.
Yeah.
Why is America suddenly, realizing or feeling that it is anti-China? Why is America so unhappy with China as of today? Not the world. Why is America unhappy with China? What do you think? I have my opinion. You can ask, but I'll ask you first. Why is America so, or is really America so unhappy with China? We don't know. Give me your answer, please.
America is suspicious of China's expansion in the world through its diplomacy and trade. China has bettered its relationship with many countries in the world, especially Africa and even some of the countries in South America. And America is afraid of China, I should say, in the sense uh, China has China is treating Pacific Ocean as its swimming pool. As a result, the countries surrounding South China Sea, Philippines, Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, they're all insecure, and they have directly or indirectly sought the help of the United States to defend, because a time may come China can just follow these countries in no time if there is no defense.
When, may I ask? Fair enough. I mean, that is talking about goody goody politics and whatever, etc. What is the fundamental concern of America? Why is America so unhappy or so aggressive with China? Is China challenging the hegemony or the perspective of being the boss around the world of America? That is one. Is that the question? I mean, we've come down. Let me complete the question. The world of today is coming down to brass tacks. There are serious questions, and even small countries are playing a big role. I mean, of once upon a time, as we look. So, what is it that is really challenging America, and what can what is America doing? Can it do what it thinks, what it wants? That's my question. Over to you, sir.
Yes. Uh, because of comparative advantage, the United States decided to manufacture all almost all its consumer uh, products and industrial products in China. This was advantageous for China because it could export and make Chinese economy grow. In the process, over a period of 20 years, America has depended on China too much. As a result, the trade deficit has grown too high. And President Trump was the first president to recognize this and started brass tacks with China in reducing the trade deficit and create a balance. And he uh, used the tariff war for this. So the America feels it cannot depend on China forever because because of this one, and two, America is also concerned that by encouraging China to produce goods for export, China every day is inching up its economy, and one day it will outstrip the United States.
When I have a question, pardon me, I mean, not a question, interjection. We have couple of viewers who are watching by, and one is actually my college senior, Dataraj Parekh. If you can read down below, he's saying China wants to replace the dollar with its currency yuan. I'll come to that, but in a moment. And by the way, my mentor in this live video streaming, Tim. In fact, when this live streaming show that I'm doing with you right now, it's courtesy of the inspiration of Dr. Tim Sohen, who is in Pennsylvania. So, from whom I've learned so much about this live video streaming. So, thank you, Tim, so much for your comments and for checking by. But I'll come back to the question from Dataresh Parekh. His question is that, and of course, we got to jump around, is that China wants to replace dollar with yuan as currency. And when, by the way, for the sake of listeners, when has been a doyen, one of the stars of Wall Street in the 1980s and 90s. He's made million, if not billion-dollar deals and shaped the directions. So he could be a very useful mind to answer these questions. So how do you look coming from a viewer the efforts of China on the currency front? How would China's efforts to bring the yuan as the international transaction. In fact, China, India, also China, Brazil, also their deals happening on yuan. Dollar is going to be sidelined. How would US look at it? How will Wall Street look at it? You're over to you, sir.
If China succeeds in increasing its export and betters its economy, uh, a time will come, a date will come that its currency will strengthen in relation to dollar. At the same time, uh, we cannot trust China uh, being a communist country, because on any given day, China can do anything they want. And they,
When may I, sir, if you
yes,
pardon me, who cares if you trust or not trust? What matters is what's happening on the ground. Who cares about if America trusts or not trusts China, or who is the we? Okay, who is the we?
the
You said we cannot be sure if we can trust China or not trust China. The question is who cares and who is the we? Because the we is spreading out. Over to you, sir.
yeah, when I meant we means the countries doing business with China, not only the United States, but many countries, Western Europe, even in India, and many countries doing business with China. That's what I meant when I said we, not just the United States. Uh, so China has started digital currency. China is the first country to start digital in currency. That is a great advance. So this, no, this is a this is a they have taken leadership in this. United States may do this later, but China is number one. The intellectual property China has violated. As a result, the United States and China are in loggerheads on that. We don't trust. We means Americans. Americans don't trust China. China has been stealing American technology, and they have been caught red-handed. Uh, so, so the
When,
yes,
sir, may I have a question, please?
yes,
We understand all of that, right? All of these things. I think people who are listening to this video, this
yes,
live broadcast, I think are very savvy people who understand what's happening in a big picture.
right.
The question is, what do you think America thinks? Because let's say we are playing different roles. And for the benefit of our audiences, I would like to reintroduce each other also. Ven Parmeswaran is our colleague and our senior advisor at Imagine India Institute. He is a MBA from Columbia Business School in the 1950s. He has worked with Indian diplomatic missions. He has advised multiple political leaders in the United States. He has worked on the Wall Street. He has made, if not billions, millions, and lost millions also. That's the game. That's part of the game, right? On the Wall Street. And he is currently the vice chairman of the Indian American Republican Council in the United States, right? So, those are some background for the viewers who've been listening so far with us, who have cared, will understand. So, when my question is that, how is America looking at China and thinking that what is China up to? See, because in India, we are trying to decode what is China doing. We've been having, interventions on our Ladakh borders, east and west borders, and all, and you know it much more equally than I do. That's been happening in India. Our strategic circles in India are thinking what is happening? Is it sporadic or is there a message from China to India? Now keep that aside. I want to talk with you and you're here with us and with our viewers to help us understand any perspective of what you think the Trump administration will deal with respect to China. We all understand the background. People are smart. When Mr. Google is there, the question is where is the United States heading with China? Is and of course that brings another question. Sure, we understand Trump and Trump election. We'll not get into politics. Will have some impact on the stance of the American government. But where do you think the bottom line lies? Can America live without American products? Will American companies, as America says that we need to move away supply chain, Trump administration is asking American companies to remove their manufacturing from China. How many of the corporates will listen to Trump? How many of them will perform that because they have to answer to their stakeholders on Wall Street? They have to give their quarterly earnings. What is your perspective on these? Let's move on the cutting edge. We are a show, a discussion for cutting edge for the people when, and you're a brilliant mind, and that's what I want to bring out and share with anyone who's listening to the show. Up to you, sir.
Uh, Robindra, let me discuss two the defense issue and defense, economic, trade, and the election. These are the four things. Defense wise, ever since Trump got elected, Trump has been investing heavily uh, in preparing for aggressive navy against China. What I mean, United States has formed an alliance with India, Singapore, Japan, Australia.
One moment, please. If I may say, if I may beg to disagree, no, I understand what you're saying, but no, there is no defense alliance. There's a talk of a quad between US, India, Japan, Australia, etc. But there is no defense on that. So let's not get into there because that quad is not there.
No, no, no.
But yeah,
I beg to differ with you because they
sure.
have been having joint exercises. India has
I
India, Australia, Japan, United
I
States.
beg to differ. May I,
Yes.
sir, with all due regard to your age and your experience, and you're a mentor, when I
Yes.
love to learn from you. But these quad exercises are mere exercises in positioning. It doesn't mean that if there's an attack on Australia tomorrow from China, that America, India will send its navies and armies. No, sir. Period. These are mere posturings. So let's get realistic. Our discussion today, and always on this show, which is Optopolitics with Sachdev, is about the reality of what is there. This discussion about the quad is posturing, signaling. Yeah, sure. This signaling about India and Japan doing naval exercise together is great, but it's nothing more than that. It can work up to something, but it does not mean that if China attacks Japan, that India will send its navy running. No, we all understand, we are mature on that. So let's step back at that. The question is, how is America looking at China? Are we looking at a US China war? That's my bottom line question. Are we looking at a physical war, military war between US and China in the next 2 years, provided Trump comes back? Not in the next 1 year, but if Trump comes back, are we looking at a physical confrontation between US and China in a couple of years? if the same trends of geopolitics continue? Over to you, sir.
I can tell you categorically no. America does not want war with any countries, especially the President of the United States, Trump, does not want to start a war with against China or any countries. Number one. Number two, when you said will America defend against India or Vietnam or Indonesia or Australia, uh, I, I, that is something private. There's no public announcement about the deal. It cannot be. Even if there is an agreement, it cannot go public, because if it went public, then China is going to be uh, not happy, and there will be repercussions.
I
So,
understand.
therefore, I do not agree with you. There is no understanding in these alliances. It is not simply a drill and strengthening the navy. In fact, Trump wants to withdraw all land forces from every country in the world, including South Korea and Japan and Germany. And
I have a question.
he wants
Pardon me.
to protect the navy, American navy, and in that respect only he's seeking the cooperation of all the Asian countries who are friendly with the United States. And heavy investment has been going on for building and strengthening American Navy and the Navy of India, Indonesia, South Korea, Japan, Vietnam, Philippines. In future wars are going to be won by through technology, not in by through land army technology, which will be used under the water and uh, out in the outer space. That's the way we are going to win the future wars. Not by So that is why the navy has become very important for the United States and all these countries. And heavy investment has gone has been heavy investment by Pentagon in these areas. You can see the figures. That is one. The second thing, the American elections is coming in November, and one of the major issues will be China, American attitude to China. What America, which party is going to be friendly? The news I am getting, China would like Democrats to win the election, and China would be happy if Trump is defeated. That's the present undercurrent in the diplomatic circle. That's what I'm hearing. I may be wrong. I mean, this is how the diplomacy develops. Uh, Now, as a result, China, President Trump has already started accusing China as the main villain behind coronavirus. On the other hand, the Democrats are trying to be more friendly to China. You can see this in the media. I don't have to explain these
No,
things.
when I will disagree with you on that because I do understand your leanings where you're coming from, and for the benefit of our listeners, with all due permissions, when is sympathetic to the Republican community, and fair enough, when we got to be, we at this show we are decoding, we are totally agnostic. So I'm happy to listen to your views, and we will disagree or not. So I want to let our listeners, because our show has to be absolutely kosher. So yes, sure. So what you're saying is that is very valid. But there is a different view to it also. So please carry on, sir. And you are my mentor. So, I understand. Please carry on.
Yes. So on the trade, on the trade relations, Trump has been the toughest president ever since we opened relationship with China in 1979. And Trump has succeeded during the past 3 years in reducing the uh, trade deficit. And China has compromised very much. There is one question I want to talk raise. Even though the American government officials, starting from President, Secretary of State, and others, are protesting and complaining against China, making China the villain, I see China is being patient, quiet, and compromising with the US on trade. As recently as last week, they agreed to sign the deal, agreeing to buy $200 billion worth of agriculture products from the United States. This puzzled me, which means China is very careful. I want to tell you, China is in a way not afraid of United States, but China wants to respect the United States. Taiwan, Taiwan is part and parcel of China historically, but because of the agreement China had with the United States, China has not taken any steps to use force to incorporate Taiwan with China. This is important. If they wanted, they could have taken it, and I don't think America would have gone to war to defend that. I mean, this is my opinion. Officially, the Americans will say they will go to war to defend Taiwan. I don't think it will happen. America does not
Will
want war.
not. It will not.
When I say
It will
America does not want war, the Trump does not want war against China. There's no two questions about it. Nobody can force him. In fact, Trump wants to, as I said, he wants to withdraw the bases. He wants to withdraw from Afghanistan. And he says America comes first. We are not the world policemen. So keep that in mind. As against that, the
So when, if I may, and you can ask me also, does it not mean that America is kind of not abdicating, but America is kind of abdicating or walking away from its role once upon a time in the 20th century, in the past century, where United States used to be a player in every region? Is the 21st century, especially the post-COVID, and COVID is has thrown a twister in everything, right? Forget the coronavirus situation, but in this century, is America retreating? That seems to be the world view. America seems to be retreating, of course, for its self interest and managing, and China is rising. So, in the next 10 or 15 odd years, China will be wherever it is, and America will have to live with it. And also, let's say India, that's where I'm coming from partly, or globally as a perspective. China will be ruling the roost. America is really, what to say, receding and leaving the ground. But anyway,
this
no. Let's come back to the question. One moment. When
yes,
the question is, what is China up to right now? That's the background. We can have hours and hours of discussion. We have just about 10 minutes left for this discussion hour with you and our brainstorming. The question to me is right now, which I want our viewers to hear. And by the way, when this will be on live video right now and stored as a video for later, viewing by anyone or multiple people. We are trying to decode. We are trying to. There is so much, fluff happening out there. Conspiracy theories, Wuhan through the lab, Pompeo saying, and no, nobody agrees. By the way, not nobody. At least I do not. Let me put it on record. I do not agree to this theory that China purposefully created the Wuhan virus and went. So I don't. But who knows? But all of that aside, as of today, what is China really up to? China is getting aggressive in the South China Sea. China is getting aggressive with India. China is pushing back. What do you see China's behavior right now with respect to the aftermath of the coronavirus?
See, China has prospered only because of the most lucrative American market. America is the largest importer of Chinese consumer and industrial goods all these years. China does not want to forgo this market. To that extent, China is prepared to compromise with the United States. On,
Question.
on the other hand, on the other hand, the United States does not want to encourage China to expand its economy. So, United States right now, not only right now, they have been looking for alternative locations uh, to replace China. The United States has been importing from now small quantities from Vietnam and Philippines, Indonesia, and Bangladesh, and all. But that is no match. So the United States has been looking to India to replace China. That I mentioned in my last discussion a week ago. So that is still, if India will only embrace this and India replaces China, then the United States is in a better position to negotiate with China. Not only negotiate, tell them to behave, change their attitude. On coronavirus, you raised a question. Uh, how do you explain the fact it started in Wuhan, China, but it did not spread the rest of China? They did not
When,
allow.
when?
Yes,
One moment, please, if I may.
yes.
You are my senior, you are my advisor, right?
Go ahead.
But let's say I do not believe in conspiracy theories generally, right? Things could have happened or not happened. I, imagine India, our think tank, and you are in fact the one of the promoters of the philosophy. Our philosophy is that we look at things could happen. We go with the philosophy of common sense, basic common sense, right? Could happen, may not happen. We want to kind of push away the idea of conspiracy theories. So
Mhm.
we will in this discussion also push away those conspiracy or any theories which could imply that this came from a lab and intentionally created by China. We will go with the common sense that okay, it may have happened some mix in the Wuhan wet markets. It originated from there, etc. So we will go with that. I will go with that, and I hope you will go with that. Or if not, we will have a discussion as you and I are having, and as our any viewers would love to have and put any questions. So, keeping all of that aside, that there is no conspiracy from China originating through the coronavirus, right? But at the same time, China is getting cornered because of international public opinion. countries and people, as you said very rightly, and as is happening, America administration is pushing and saying that, oh, China. But you see what's happening. If we are talking about optopolitics, we are talking about geopolitics, we are talking about power games. What is happening right now? Wuhan, whatever has come around, it gives the Trump administration a tool to pressure down China. You know, that, oh, this came originated from you. It's a pressure tactic. So we understand that. I understand that. My sense, again, stepping back, is that what do you think that China is up to for the next 3 to 4 weeks? How will China, because we are running out of time on our discussion, we've got multiple questions. We have a question from Pranay. When can you read this question? Whatever. Pranay says, Trump says doctors and nurses running into death just like soldiers running into bullets. It's a beautiful thing to see. Pranay, Trump, for Trump, everything that he talks, we got to understand his manner of talking is beautiful with everything, right? America is going through a hard time. What is people opinion? What are chances for next term? We will come back to what chances for Trump in next term is a very different political discussion. Right now, our discussion is about what do you think when?
Yes.
You have 20 seconds, sir, to think and reflect on my question. What do you think China will do in the next 1 week or next 2 weeks? Wherever. How will China act?
That is
What do you think?
impossible for me to answer what they will do in 2 weeks.
No, you can speculate. You can speculate. You can speculate 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks. You can speculate. We can understand. And that's what your value is, sir. You have been an observer of China for the last 60 odd years. You know American presidential candidates. You've hung out with them. You know the thinking one way and the other. So I'm tapping into your brain.
Sure.
Okay, I'm not asking for the answer. I'm tapping into your brain. I'm decoding. I'm trying to decode for myself and yourself and for our viewers. What do you think that, or how do you think that China will act in the next 1 month with respect to America, with respect to India?
With respect to India, nothing is going to happen within the next month.
No, no. When? With respect to India, right now, China is threatening. China has been pushing its soldiers on our eastern borders and western borders. On the Arunachal side and the Ladakh side, they've been like soldier skirmishes, they've been helicopter incursions on both our borders just this week, these few days.
I didn't see.
China is
I
getting
haven't
aggressive.
seen anything in the Western press about it so far.
No, fair enough. May I? May I? You
Yes.
may not have seen. I'm bridging the gap. It is happening. It's sure, you may not have seen it in the Western press, but it's happening right now. Right now, we've had skirmishes on India's eastern border and western border, Sikkim and Ladakh. I know you know these areas like the back of your hand. We've had skirmishes with China. So China is signaling and aggressive with India right now. China is also aggressive with the South China Sea next to Vietnam. China is also sending its aircraft carriers with Vietnam. So, what do you see is happening with China? What is really China up to?
But based on my reading,
Yeah,
I will not agree. I will not say China is more aggressive in South China Sea now than 3 years ago. Number one. Number two, even against India, if at all China was contemplating, as you are pointing out, it would have come in the Western media. I have not seen not even one report about Chinese intentions. So I cannot. And second, thirdly, in the event China is aggressive against India, or Vietnam, Philippines, America is not going to keep quiet. America will not go to war, but America has many instruments to stop
When a question, what instruments does America have? What
economic
are the instruments America
economic
has?
economic sanction has worked successfully against many countries. If United States starts economic sanction against China, it will be very severe for China, and the rest of the world will 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 support the United States. This much I can tell you based on my experience.
I understand. I understand. I
So
understand.
that is a very powerful weapon. They can have their own currency. They can call it's more valuable than a dollar. Everything will come to a stop if there is no trade between the United States and China. And China the United States owes more than $1 trillion to China. Ch- China, China has to be careful. Who knows what will happen if there is a tug of war? So China doesn't want to lose that $1 trillion. Very easily, the Americans can say, let us charge them for their violation of not sharing the information and spreading this coronavirus. The Americans still maintain that China is responsible for not sharing the information, and Americans are also blaming the WHO. WHO also did not share the information. So this is not this is not a small thing. Americans are very serious about China. So China cannot wag its tail. I can tell you that, and
The do-
I doubt they will use force against India.
no, fair enough. No, may I?
Yes, yes, please.
I would actually disagree with you.
Yes,
As far as India is concerned, I do think that China will or could use force against India on India's boundaries. Okay, that's my personal opinion. Irrespective of the global picture, because I think you look back at Doklam or whatever, etc., it doesn't take much. For China, it is a matter of sending a signal to India. See, there are meetings of the WHO coming up next week in Geneva, where the discussion about this COVID virus, etc., will happen, etc. For China, India is a two-bit player. India is not a big player for China, from what I know, I understand. As far as Chinese, see, we are talking when optopolitics, images and power games, right? For China, it looks at India, one fifth its economy, one fifth its military, and nothing. China thinks India is a small 2 cent player. India, for me, is 100% of the world, I agree. For you, maybe also, but for China, India is not a serious contender anyway. You can maybe correct me. One. So, China, it will do whatever it thinks, when it thinks, appropriate for its games. So China will, in the next 1 month, 2 months, I guarantee you, let's take a bet on
but
the show tonight.
yeah,
China will increase incursions on India's. But anyway, that's a very different topic. We can go deeper in detail on that.
I can answer you in one sentence. See,
Yeah.
based on the relationship between Modi and President Xi of China, uh, the last one took place in Chennai, India. I cannot agree with you because the relationship has been cordial and excellent between the heads of states. I stop there.
No, sure, sure, sure. I will understand. May I add one bit to it?
Yes.
What India is facing, I did not want this conversation to get into India China relations, but since we are talking, I'll put one point on that. My big picture of this discussion was what is China really up to in a global sense, right? But since you brought it up, I will say one thing. India knows that China is our neighbor. We have to live with China. The challenge which India will face between the US and China is that it's a tightrope. US pushing, the more US wants to screw down on China, and the more United States thinks that India is a partner with the US, and the US will want with us or without us. India will never be able to play that game. India is, and in fact, we will see this tightrope coming up next week at the WHO meetings in Geneva, where the discussion is going to come up about Taiwan. So, I mean, those are multiple things. So, yeah, we understand. I understand. India will not and should not. I don't know, but I do think India should not. We cannot be in one camp versus another with respect to China. China is our neighbor. For the United States, India is like a million miles away, thousands of miles away, and China is thousands of miles away. India cannot just be in one camp. We have to live and manage together. So that's a very different conversation when that you're leading us into. But I think we are running short of time.
India
So
cannot
quick.
be on the fence and non-aligned as before. That has failed. India has to take sides. India has already taken the side of the United States, as I see
No,
it.
no, no, no.
Because India is treated as the closest ally of the United States, and Trump has allowed transfer of 100% of 100% transfer of U.S. technology, which never happened before. The closest ally relationship never happened between the United States and India. Trump is the first president to execute that on all levels. So, cabinet secretaries of defense, finance, and foreign affairs of both countries met each other, and they have trashed this policy, and this is being done now.
No, sure, but no, but I would disagree with it. I would agree and disagree when the point is India cannot be doing things just. I mean, it's a fact. India cannot be just if America feels that this was right and wrong, and India goes swings left and right on American perspectives. We have our own neighbors. We have India has to live with its own neighbors. America does not have to. That is the challenge which India has. So America, Trump, all technology sharing, and that's a very different discussion we will get into in subsequent sessions. But India cannot and should not. We have our own ecosystem in India to live with. And if it's about, you know, against China, go to war. America will go to war 10,000 miles away and do sanctions, whereas India is sitting right now on borders with 100 meters. How will we manage that? So, what America thinks and expects, and what India does and does not, there has to be a divergence. There will be a divergence.
In the modern age, the distance doesn't matter at all. Number one. Number two, the all the future wars will be won by technology, not by the number of army and other things, as happened in 1962. United States is in a position to support and help any country in the world.
US is not in a position to support anyone anywhere in the world now.
Technology is
We-
remote. You see, not United States doesn't have to come there 10,000 physically. The wars are done, wars are won by technology. In technology today, it's a fact that America's technology is superior to China's technology or any country's technology. That's a fact.
America is losing their war. America is losing their technology. China's technologies are going to be better than America in the next 3 years, including artificial intelligence, including space, including anything.
Going
US
to
is
be
losing the war.
in future, maybe I don't know. As of today, I am saying America is superior to Chinese technology. In fact,
Ah, it's losing.
China
It
is
is losing. America is losing
that's
the
why
war. When
that is the
America is
reason
losing.
China is stealing American technology, and that is one of the bones of contention. The difference between the United States and China, where China is stealing the American technologies. China cannot, and Chinese students and professors are in the
When, when,
they are
when?
spying.
May I say something? May I say something? Once upon a time, when America was formed in the 1700s, before America was even formed, America stole technologies from Europe and England to take the cotton spinning mills. America America became wealthy because of stealing cotton mills from Europe. Right. One. Second, Japan in the 1950s and 60s were totally bankrupt. Japan became a successful nation. It stole the technologies. Japan in 1950s and 60s was known as a copy nation. It used to just copy and sell, right? Low standard goods. But by 70s and 80s, Japan graduated and became the technology leader. So the idea that stealing technology does not lead you anywhere, I think is very flawed. It's a discussion later. You got to steal technology, you got to copy. Why reinvent the wheel? If you've done something, I can reinvent and build up for something more. So America is losing the war in that. I mean, that's the question I think we are debating.
See, Japan was zero at the end of World War II. It became second economic power only because it did not steal. It just applied the American technology.
It copied without intellectual property. Japan was the world's worst
Ravinder,
stealer of intellectual property.
Ravinder, with all respects to you,
Uh,
Japan applied American technologies. That is how they became second economic power.
I
America
agree.
failed failed to apply their own technology because of the unions supported by the Democrats. So that the world capital of cars, Detroit, went down, was defeated by Japan, and Japanese cars became popular. So not only cars, television, radio, transistor, everything. So that is how they became. And who are the consumers? The Americans and the world. So the application of technology. See, everything is technology, whether it's for peace or war. That's going to decide. Without technology, and in that, fortunately, land of immigrants. United States is land of immigrants. As a result, America is able to attract the best brains from the world. They come here, they study, they create the technologies. You see, so you cannot underestimate the importance of technology and the advanced technology and research and development in the United States. Even for the coronavirus, I am confident that America will invent a vaccine and also invent medicines to treat coronavirus. Right now, there is no medicine, so people are admitted to the hospital just for dying. That will change.
I agree. When May say something, I totally appreciate and I'm with you. But just for a counter scientific thought, you are my senior, you are my advisor. But may I share with you something? You know it much more than me. HIV/AIDS, for the last 40 years, there has never been a vaccine discovered. One. Please hear me out. HIV/AIDS, no vaccine discovered. HIV/AIDS, no medicine to cure it discovered. Dengue, dengue or dengue, however we pronounce it, no vaccine discovered, no medicine discovered. So those are things out there. So we don't know about this coronavirus situation. I wish all God bless to your spirit that you say that for coronavirus there will be a vaccine discovered within a year. I wish, I hope, and I know this there will be. But as a scientific person, you and me, and decoding the optopolitics and reality of the world for our viewers. We have to be honest and we have to be sharing with our viewers what is the reality of lives. There may be a virus, a vaccine discovered, or there may not be a vaccine discovered. It will depend. We have to have the scientific temperament. So that aside, but thank you, and thank you. When I think we've run out of a lot of time, we will catch up again, I think, and we will I will post this video as it's stored on your YouTube. And thank you so much. And once again, people, whoever was watching, thank you so much for your comments. We missed your comments as Wen and I were talking, and believe me guys, when Wen talks, he has so much brain power and inspiration that I get so much inspired and I learn so much. And I hope you guys learn so much. And that is why, by the way, this show, Decoding Optopolitics with Sachdev, is hosted by Robinder, Sachdev, and Wen Parameswar. And Wen is about 90 years of age in New York, one of the finest minds in my life that I've met. He's my mentor. And if you've seen this discussion, we banter back and forth. I agree with some, disagree with some. But you know what? That's the same that you do, or I will do, as we have a conversation and we learn. So, thank you for watching by. Please, guys, put your comments in the comment section down below. We will come back and write back to you. And we look forward to taking this conversation forward and building a sense of what in the world is happening. So today's session was, what is China really up to? I don't know wherever or how much we were able to kind of reach up to that idea about what China is really up to. But you see, guys, these are the questions that leaders are facing. Our leaders, prime ministers, presidents are facing when they're thinking that what China is doing, what India is doing, what India is, America, India, Germany, whoever is doing, and when they are crafting their national policies. These are challenging times. Once again, thank you so much. When if you have 1 minute, when for any last minute comments before we go off the air.
Thank you, Ravinder, and all friends who are watching us. Uh, I appreciate the opportunity to participate in this brainstorming. And I respect and value Robinda, who started Image India Institute several years ago. And I am glad finally the Image India Institute is creating opportunities for international brainstorm. Congratulations to you, Robinda. I respect you for your views and your intellect and the network you have created. This kind of forum can contribute to better understanding of the world and better understanding of international relations. And as you rightly said, it may even help the national leaders of important countries. Uh, Even for China, our discussion could be lessened. Thank you, Rubinder. Thank you all.
Thank you, Wen. Such a pleasure to have you, sir. It's been my honest pleasure in learning to have learned and brainstormed and argued with Wen. As those of you who have been seeing this showcast would understand, Wen is a well of knowledge, slow by slow, the more you scratch him, the more he comes up with ideas and experiences and his thoughts. And though he may be 90 years old, but he is 19 years old in the perspectives that he brings and the freshness of energy that he brings. And it has, I've been blessed with his friendship and sharing all these years. So thank you guys, and look forward to another next show on Optopolitics with Sachdev. Thank you, Wen. All the best. Sleep well, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Hi guys, okay, bye bye. Laters on tonight, and thank you for watching by coming by.